to this workshop on how to run your agency with AI powered by Noloco. We're covering in today's workshop. So I have a quick introduction on running your agency with AI, why we think it's important. Also a quick intro to Noloco. Then we'll get into some demos on running your agency with AI in Noloco. We also have Dara, the CEO of Noloco, joining us live right now. So a little bit of pressure in my demos. I hope I do him proud, the mastermind behind this great platform. Then I'll finish up with some best practices for building your AI-first operating system for your agency. And finally, I'll try and leave at least 10 minutes at the end where Dara will join us for a Q&A. So any questions you have about the platform, also of anything that I've demoed, but please feel free to use the chat throughout the workshop, and I'll also see if I can take some questions while we go through it. So onto the introduction. Actually, what I want to start with is a slide that we often use when we're giving some of our company workshops to just show people a bit of the lay of the land about how different companies are actually using AI or what companies are doing with AI. And we actually see that we can put these into 4 different buckets of types of companies and what they're doing with it. So obviously we have these big tech companies, the likes of Microsoft, Google, Meta, and they're the ones that are actually building the infrastructure for us. They're the ones building the models that we users can actually use then and leverage. Then you have some what we'd classify as visionaries. So these are companies that are betting big and early on AI projects that are impacting their core business. Klarna is a great example of this. There was a really good, I think they were one of the first main use cases of a very big project with OpenAI. But these companies are literally investing millions into rolling out AI within their company. Then on the very other side of the spectrum, we have what we call the lagging majority, particularly here in Europe with some companies worrying about GDPR. It is obviously a valid concern, but we're seeing some companies just really not jumping in at this massive opportunity of what AI can bring to their company. And then this very sweet spot that we see, and that's the early adopters. And basically the early adopters see hiring as the last resort and trying to use AI applications in every way possible to scale the team output without scaling the team and being able to stay lean. And obviously on the forefront of this, alongside AI SaaS and startups that we're seeing, are obviously agencies. And for agencies, it makes a ton of sense. Typically, these are already lean teams with tight margins, and being able to, let's say, scale production without necessarily needing to scale headcount is very, very attractive for agency, of course. So now on to the main tool of this workshop, and that is, of course, Noloco. So what is Noloco? Noloco is a custom business apps platform. And I'd also love right now to get a quick understanding in the chat. Is everyone already familiar? Are people joining because you're already using Noloco? Please let us know, is this the first time you're hearing about it? Just drop a quick message in the chat. Are you an existing Noloco user, or are you hearing about it for the first time? All right, so a lot of first timers, never used it. Very exciting. Dara, I think we're going to have some great questions on our hands during the Q&A. Then we've got a couple love Noloco, actually running a Noloco agency. Okay, great to see both ends. Noloco is the GOAT, consult with clients on the platform. Awesome. Great to see such a mix. So what is Noloco? Basically, it does what it says on the box. It is a platform that allows you to build custom business apps. And this basically makes it a great candidate for building your agency's operating system. So when it comes to building custom business apps or custom business applications, and this actually applies to building any software application, this actually happens on 3 levels. So first of all, you have the databases. This is where you store your business data. Next up comes logic, where you define your business logic and automations, what should happen under certain scenarios. And finally, you have interfaces. And these are the graphical user interfaces that let either your team, your clients, your users interact with your data and your logic. And you can find all of these in Noloco. So we have data, workflows, and app, covering these 3 core fundamentals of building software in general. And everything can be done without writing a single line of code. If you haven't already guessed from the name Noloco, a little bit of an abbreviation on no code, low code. Now, with this in mind, the fact that we can build any custom business application, this opens up a ton of valuable use cases for agencies. And these are some that I took directly from the Noloco website, from client portals, internal tools, your own flexible CRM directly, I guess, set up for your exact needs, a team intranet, employee management, and obviously, as we're seeing some people in the audience, even creating these as your agency service and building apps for other businesses as a service that your agency provides. Now, what's very, very exciting, and it's going to be the main focus of this webinar, is that the team at Noloco have recently added some new AI features, which I believe are still currently in beta. But the good news that they're currently in beta is it basically means that they're free for all users. And I think the team at Noloco have done a great job making this available and are really interested in seeing what people come up and build with these features. So definitely check these out after the workshop. But basically, these come in two categories. First of all, we have AI-powered fields. And next we have AI workflow actions. And I just want to jump into the Noloco platform very quickly and give you a demonstration of each of these right away. So first of all, starting with AI-powered fields. So I'm going to jump across. So here I'm sharing my screen. I'm in my Noloco application. So I can even head out to the main menu here. You see you can basically create. You don't need to create just one application like I'm going to be showing you in the demonstration today. You could actually create several applications, but here I have one, and this is sort of like a mock operating system. So we have some data set up here where we have things like opportunities, leads, accounts, contacts, all the way down to projects and tasks. And the one area where I want to show you, I'll quickly head over to the leads table and give you an example of these AI-powered fields. So here, this is just so that you know, in this workshop, this is all mock data. So you'll see majority of these are using the test at test.com. I've just gone ahead and created some fake email addresses for these first 3 leads. But what we can do is we can go ahead and create a new field. And I'm going to call this one email type. And what I want to do is use AI to determine whether the person that is here as a lead in my operating system, in my CRM, are they using a business email address or are they using a private email address? And particularly if you're running a lot of webinars and workshops, you will tend to get both naturally coming into your system. So this is a great way to differentiate. So what I can simply do is when I'm creating a field, typically if any of you have used any other no-code databases, you'll be very familiar that you can pick the different field types. And the new one down here, if I just type AI, you'll see that there's an AI-powered field. And then when we select AI-powered fields, we have again, some different options here. I could classify, summarize, sentiment, chat prompt, correct grammar, keyword extraction. So I could actually give a whole prompt here in this AI-powered field. But in my case, I just want to use classify. And I'm just going to say, determine whether the email address, and then I need to reference the email field, is business or private. And actually, I think even what I can do even here, this is even simpler. I don't even need to give a prompt here. All I simply need to do is reference the email field. So I'm just going to go reference the email field. And all I need to do now is select which options it should classify these into. So I'm going to give an option here as business email, and then another one as private email. And that is it. So I've got an AI field looking at the email address and classifying it into these buckets. I can say add field. And what we need to do is I'll now scroll over and look for that AI field that I just created. And I can basically trigger these. I can choose to calculate these AI values. Now, the way this is basically set up in Noloco, by default, when you create a new field, it's not going to automatically run for every single field. But whenever a field changes value, so for instance, now if you would create a new lead would come in, that would automatically be calculated for them. So let me just refresh the page and we'll see those fields have been should have been updated. So here we see that it's perfectly understood that the first email address, if we have a look here, is edufocus.edu. So actually this one, we're off to a bit of a rough start here. Let's see how it goes with this one. In the testing, this was working well, but here we have business email and private, but that is just the, let's say, the the goal here in setting up these fields is just making it very, very simple that you can just drop in some data and classify it into different buckets. So to show you how far we can actually push this, we have this lead quality field set up. And now I just want to show you in the actual app section. So right now I'm in the data section. This is in the back end of Noloco. In the data section, in the app section, you can actually create these interfaces, and these are fully customizable. So here I have my leads list, and we have this lead quality field, and this has been an AI generated field. So if we go and have a look back into the data and we have a look at the lead quality field, you can see here this is given a bit more of a prompt. So maybe that's what I needed to do in my email example. I've basically given a big prompt here and stipulated how this lead should be classified, given some information. And typically when you're doing any sort of lead scoring, this is something that you'd probably have a data engineer work on and create some sort of Python or SQL script. Now, thanks to AI, we can just generate one long prompt and stipulate here which variables we want to look at and have it come up with an option. So whether the lead is medium, low fit, not a fit, or a high fit. Now, that was the AI-powered fields. And before I check for any questions, I just want to show you the other area where we can leverage AI within Noloco, and that is within workflows. So workflows are automations that you can set up directly in Noloco based on your data. So for instance, when a record is created, and we can add an action step here. And we could, for instance, send an email, create records, find records. But if I scroll down, we can build workflows with OpenAI's powerful GPT models. And again, here we have different options. I can send a full prompt to Chat GBT. I can summarize, I can correct English grammar mistakes, extract keywords, analyze sentiment, or finish some text that I started writing. And these two features is what I'll be showing in the different demonstrations. What was the AI action for the lead qualifying field? Again, that was classifying as well. Yeah. Then Alina has a question. What are the models? I think that one will save for the Q&A at the end. And I see Dara already shaming me that my prompt wasn't quite great on the email type. So that is just a quick overview of the two different types of fields where we can leverage AI in Noloco. And next up, what I want to basically cover in these demos is first to give you some inspiration. First about what is possible today without writing any code directly within Noloco, but next that you can and really should leverage AI across all areas of your agency. So we've got basically a demo on each of these areas, from awareness, which is attracting new clients, acquisition, closing new deals, delivery, providing a top tier service, and finally retention, ensuring that clients come back time and time again. So with that in mind, I want to head over to the very first demo, what we call a call to content system. And often as an agency owner, you might find yourself that you're in a lot of calls, whether that's calls with clients, calls with your team, calls giving webinars or workshops, or doing some sort of interview promotion. And in these calls, you often share a lot of valuable insights without actually realizing that that you're sharing them and how valuable these insights could be. And at the same time, as a busy agency owner, you probably aren't consistently posting on social media like LinkedIn, for instance, so that you can attract new clients. So what I want to show you here is a bit of a system where you can have AI take any meeting transcript. So all the calls that you're in, AI is going to have a look at what was discussed in the meeting, identify potential ideas for content, and finally, we're going to leverage AI to actually craft the first draft of the LinkedIn post using some human in the loop along the way. And actually, the first step of this, let's say, system really starts outside of Noloco. It's going to start using make.com because we need a way to actually get in the meeting transcripts. So I'm going to head over now to that demo, and I'll start with a quick work through of the make scenario. So what we have here is, for anyone that doesn't know Make is basically an automation platform similar to Zapier, similar to N8N. We can collect all of our different tools. All that you basically need is some sort of system for recording meetings. So for instance, we're using Circleback. You could use Zoom transcripts directly. You could use Google Meet transcripts. You could use Gong, MeetGeek. There's loads of solutions out there. But basically what you want is whenever you have a meeting, this is going to basically give us the transcript. And then all we're doing is we're giving this transcript to Chat GBT and asking it to identify some content ideas. And we can actually have a quick look at this prompt. So the way that this prompt is structured, I'll give this a second to load. We've got two parts. First of all, I've given it some background information about my company, 9X, and what we do and what we focus on. And next, in the actual user prompt, I've got this one section here, and this is where you should basically customize this to whatever content pillars you're focusing on in social media. So here it is your job is to analyze a transcript of a meeting and identify content-worthy moments. So here you basically would put whatever your content pillars are. And then at the bottom, I'm giving some instructions about how the data should be structured. And finally, here I'm just passing in that transcript. So what I can actually do is I can go and take a look at a recent meeting where we ran this on. I'm just going to have a look at the history here. I'm just doing a little bit of a manipulation because actually the way it works in Circleback is when you get a transcript, it actually gives you each moment of the transcript one sentence at a time. And this is obviously not very good for AI to understand. So I'm just using a text aggregator to be able to aggregate all of that transcript into one. And finally, then we have a Chat GBT come up with these ideas. And for each idea, I have an idea title, a description, a hook, and then the exact snippet what I mentioned in that call. And this is basically all of these ideas I'm just funneling to Noloco. What would be a great step here is I could also send myself a Slack message so that I know, hey, a new meeting has happened and we found some more content ideas. Now, over in Noloco, what is great is I can just go to my app section. So I'm actually going to go into the app and take a look at my ideas. And all of those ideas are listed here. And so you can think about this. Maybe you're doing this once a week. You'll have all of your ideas that were generated from the calls that you had the previous week listed here. And if I take a look under the hood, I'm just going to open that one up in a different tab here. So here into the ideas, basically every idea by default has the status new. So I'm listing in this Noloco, this app view, I'm listing all of my new ideas. And now this is where it's a great human in the loop step, because not every idea that it picks up is going to be useful. Whenever you give something to Chat GBT saying, hey, find some ideas, it's going to try and find some. And it would be a little bit of a waste if we necessarily go ahead and create LinkedIn posts for all of these. So here I can very easily, in one click, decide, play a little bit of like idea Tinder, if you will, whether I want to reject this idea. For instance, maybe this one, I don't feel like that could be a valuable post. So I can just go ahead and reject it. And in a second, basically this idea, it's a little bit slow now because I'm screen sharing, but this idea is basically gone. And I've updated the status, and I'm doing this in the Noloco app interface. For the next one, building automation roadmap for clients. Jan explains how the course equips participants to create automation roadmaps. I think this one's quite a good idea. So in one click, I can just simply hit generate post. And now what I'm doing is in Noloco, leveraging the AI workflow actions, and we'll show you how this works in a second, to generate a post. Now over here in posts, what you'll see is that post, this is the post that has just created. It's basically taken that idea, that snippet from the idea that I got from the transcript, and now given me a fully fledged post that I can now go and edit. I can go ahead and make any changes if I need to, and finally say when it is posted. So imagine here you're doing this once a week, generating a bunch of posts from your ideas, iterating on them. You bulk this together, and then you have a week, if not a month, of LinkedIn posts ahead of you. Are there any questions on that demo before I show you under the hood? I just want to open up the chat for a second. Okay, perfect, all good. So now let me show you under the hood about how this one works. So first of all, this is simply just a workflow. As I said, in Make, we're pushing all of these ideas here into Noloco, and then I have a workflow set up. So let me find it. Here we go, generate post from ideas. And this workflow is triggered whenever the idea status changes. And when I'm hitting those buttons in the interface, that is setting the status as either rejected or generate post. And here I can put in a little filter where I only want to continue if the status that was just changed is now generate post. And then now directly within Noloco, I can prompt Chat GBT. So here I have my prompt saying you're a senior content writer for 9X, giving some context about the company. And now I'm giving very specific instructions to how I would like my LinkedIn post formatted. If you have a look here on the post that was generated, you'll see there's a lot of blank, empty lines. This is something that's very, very good for LinkedIn because it has a lot of readability. Typically, you'll see posts that should just be very short sentences with some line spaces in between them because it just makes this easier to understand on the platform. And in that workflow, I'm giving those exact instructions. And then simply here, I'm dynamically passing in those variables from the idea. And finally, all I need to do is map the response that Chat GBT gives me. And here I can actually select from a few different GBT models in the workflow and create a record. And now here I'm creating a record not back in the idea table, but rather in the post table. And all I need to do is pass the response that we get from Chat GBT. I'm going to map the idea so that we always know that which posts are connected to which ideas. And I'm going to set the post in status draft. Finally, what I need to do is I need to update the record, the idea record, to say that the post was generated so that it disappears from that view. That's how simple it is to build a content management system or a content machine like this, just with a couple of AI steps. Now, obviously, if you're not happy with the quality of the posts that are being created, it's all just about updating and improving this prompt. And you could even take this a step further. For instance, having AI automatically either generate a briefing that you could give to maybe your, if you have an in-house designer or a freelance designer that you work with, they could give a briefing on what sort of image should accompany the post, or it could even generate a prompt. You'd probably then need to go and use something like Make again and use ChatGPT's API to generate images. I don't think that's something that's possible yet directly within Noloco, but it doesn't just have to stop at the text posts. When will you have your own databases? Okay, I think that's a Noloco question. Will you share the Make scripts? Yes, I can definitely share them and the prompts. I can put something together, a little Notion document, and share them afterwards for sure. And Make blueprint would be good. What are the workflows you can run within Noloco? Maybe we also add that one, Dara, to the list during the Q&A. All right, so that was demo number 1 on this call to content system. Next up, let's take a look at demo number 2. And now we're moving on to the acquisition side of things. And this is with Streamline proposal generation. So another great candidate for AI and automation is really streamlining proposals. They can be a big time sink when done manually. Typically, if you're working by yourself doing founder-led sales, obviously we all get excited when we're having these calls and we want to have a new customer. And particularly if your content starts taking off, you probably have more and more inbound, and actually finding time to generate these proposals can take up a significant amount of time, and leveraging AI for this makes a ton of sense. Specifically, if you're leveraging a system, for instance, your AI first operating system, where all the data you need for generating the proposals could already be in the system. So here we can do something like take different inputs like meeting call notes, hourly rates, budget range, project types, give that to AI, give AI a template, and have it already generate a draft proposal that we can share with a client. So over in Noloco, I'll open up this one. Now here I'm in the projects area. So we have in the data types, previously I was looking at ideas and posts. Now we're looking at projects. And I can simply open up one of these projects here that we have in the scoping area. Imagine I just basically had the call with this client. Now, what I've done for these demo purposes is that I can simply just upload some call notes. Of course, we just saw in Make that we can automate that whole process. So dynamically call notes are being fed into Noloco. Here, I'm just going to drop in some pre-prepared notes. So let me just go ahead and copy them. And this is basically the call notes from the call. I need to move my Zoom controls, hit confirm. And what's going to happen in a second, we've got a few different AI generated fields. So in this demo, I want to show you both combining AI powered fields and AI actions in workflows. So I've just uploaded the notes. I'll give it a couple of seconds. And here we can see we've had a few fields just dynamically populate like that. And in the app view, unlike when we're in the data view, we don't need to refresh the page. This just happens automatically. So based on those call notes that I provided, we were able to identify, okay, this was the project type, there is an estimated budget range, and we have some call notes. Now what I can simply do is just in one click hit generate proposal. And here it's giving me the opportunity to add some additional notes. So maybe, for instance, I can add something like if needed, we can use a junior PM at an hourly rate of €100 in order to meet the budget requirements. Just some additional notes that maybe weren't covered in the call. I can just hit confirm. And now what this is triggering is a workflow in the background that is going to use that Chat GBT action step to generate this full proposal in properly formatted sections. And now we can see this one has dynamically appeared. You might be wondering, how did it just pop up like that? In the Noloco app builder, we can basically configure some fields to only show when they have a value. So it's great for these sort of proposals that we just need to use it at the start and then don't need them again. We can always configure exactly what is displayed in this app view. So now we have a full project proposal set up with an overview, the key pain points, proposed solution. We even have some deliverables here in a table. And you'll notice here that that extra information I gave was basically added here in this step. And it even basically says that our estimate is slightly higher than the project range. So maybe there'll need to be some initial scoping. Now, all of this is done purely just in one prompt. So if I go over to that workflow and take a look, so here I'm in the workflow view. This is triggered by an on-demand action button. This was triggered when I basically submitted that little modal. And then all I'm doing here is sending a question to Chat GBT. And again, this is the prompt, a simple text prompt where I'm putting in those dynamic parameters. We're referencing here some of the AI generated fields like the call summary, the estimated budget notes, the project type, those important notes that I set manually, our PM hourly rate, and also the estimated budget range. And it has basically created that in full Markdown, which we can simply display. Now we can take this again a step further. I could simply add another button here that maybe after I do a few refinements that says send email to client. Inside of our system, we have the contact connected to the contact connected to the project. We know the account. We could basically set up something that just in one click without leaving Noloco, you don't need to go and open up Gmail, could basically send off this draft proposal, or even again, integrating with like Make or Zapier. I know that Noloco also have an integration with Docs Automator. It could even be potentially creating the document as a PDF, which we then attach to an email. So any questions on this example? These use cases. Yesterday, I need to automate each of these systems for my agency. Great timing. Awesome. Great to hear. Can we connect a client portal to ClickUp? I think I'll leave that one for Dara to answer at the end. Can the document be made into a PDF without going outside of Noloco? Maybe we cover that one as well in the question time. All right, since there's so many questions, I'm just going to get through these so that we have enough time to answer them all. So now going on to number 3 of our demos here for your AI first agency. And now it comes to obviously the delivery. So we've attracted some clients, we've signed some hopefully, and now delivering the service. And here I want to show you how you can automate. It's a very, very similar setup, but I just want to show you from a very similar setup how many different use cases can come up. So here's about automating the weekly client updates. And actually, this is something that we learned back from our time of being an agency. So 9X, before we focused purely on training in AI and automation, we were also a automation agency. And basically from the delivery side of any agency, there's 2 big parts, and only one part is actually doing the work. And unless you actually are communicating with the customer about what's been done, there really doesn't seem like the value is being provided. So in an agency, really want to emphasize that communication is everything. And I want to show you here how we can have AI do the heavy lifting and generate these weekly client updates based on all of the data we have in our system. Because if we're also managing, if we have our task management system connected to Noloco, then basically all the data we need for these weekly client updates is there. And what's great is once your team start using this system, it also ensures that all the tasks are up to date. Because if they know they don't need to go and write a long client update about what was done this week, they just need to make sure all of the tasks are properly updated and then click a button. They're going to also make sure that these tasks are, let's say, kept clean, because we often know how messy these can get. So over now, I'm going to check out the tasks object that I have here. So here in we have different tasks. Tasks are connected to projects and they have different statuses. So what I can actually do is on a project level, I'm just going to go to a project that I tagged before for this demo, which is in the monitoring phase. And you'll see here, because of these relationships, that one project can have many tasks. What we see here in this project view, we see all the tasks listed here and their status. So this task is complete, the couple still to do. We have some in progress and some complete. We also have their due date. And what I've shown, typically this is not something that you need to see here, is what is known as a roll-up. So roll-up is basically a way in Noloco, when you have one project connected to many tasks, we can basically aggregate some values on those individual tasks. And what I've done here is basically created something that to a human looks very, very bad to read. It's something that we almost can't read and understand, but to an AI, they can actually understand it very, very well, because all I've done is for each task, and I'll show you under the hood in a second, I've added some specific data points. So the task title, the task description, and either wrapped it into, is this a task that was completed last week? Or is this, if it's just task, it's going to be a task that we're working on next week. And the way that this basically looks like under the hood, if I go to the data view now, is on the tasks table. So this is not an AI-powered field, but rather just a formula field. So we have our tasks table with the different statuses, the due dates, and the completed dates. And then I just have a formula field saying, like, if the current week, if basically the tasks were completed based on that completed week date last week, then list them here as a completed task. Otherwise, if they're going to be completed in the upcoming week based on the due date, just list them here as a regular task. And otherwise, you'll see all of these fields being empty. So it's a little bit technical, but you can see this is as simple as writing basically a Google Sheets or an Excel formula. And that all that I've basically done then is on the project level, and I can even go over to that one. So on the projects, we have here this, let me scroll over, task summary for AI. And all this one doing is taking all of the tasks that are connected to the project, looking at that text, that formula field that I created, and concatenating it all in one. And what this basically allows us to do, since now for this task, I have all of the data that I need, I can simply hit generate weekly update email. And again, this is just a workflow. And we can see down here that this email is here. I think this was one that I ran earlier. And we can see that we've got it nicely formatted, what we completed last week, what we'll work on next week. And of course, this is something that you can just go ahead and edit. You don't need to go and send it straight away. If you need to add any additional points that you might want to cover, maybe there's some open information that you need from them. And again, here, tasks is not the only input you necessarily need to give this. If you can structure your prompt in a good way, you could also add in any emails that you've had with that customer. Obviously, you need to push them into Noloco. You could put in any call transcripts that you've had and basically get it to generate this weekly email. And as I said before with the proposal, in a click, you could have this automatically sent off. Now, Marek says, is there any easy way to make this make the application in several languages, how to do it automatically? Now, I can't speak too much. Maybe that's something we can bring up with Dara as well on the actual app. But obviously within AI, you could have, like on the account or on this project, I could have a project language, and then in the AI prompt, tell it to give me even if the task's in English, I could say, translate it based on this language and dynamically map it. Because I'll just show you here the workflow that's generating this one. So here, this is the weekly update email. Again, it's when a button is pressed. And all I'm doing here is prompting Chat GBT and just giving it that task summary for AI, which is that roll up saying, hey, here are the tasks that we have. Each task has a title, a description, and I'm telling it that if it's a completed task, write it under this section. And if it's something that we'll work on next week, write it under this section, and it's easily able to do it. All right, then let me just go into the final demo, and then we can get into answering all of your questions. And that is now on AI customer sentiment analysis. And this is where the retention part comes in. So again, imagine we're collecting lots of different customer feedback. We could basically have AI take a look and understand, okay, for our accounts, we're maybe collecting several different feedback points. Where do they currently sit? Do we have a positive relationship with them? Do we have a neutral relationship, or is it negative? And maybe do we need to act? And this one again is just simply leveraging the Noloco AI-powered fields. So over in our operating system, in our test app here, we have a feedback list where we have different feedback coming in. As I said, can be many different sources. This could be from notes that you got in a call. Your team could be adding feedback here manually when they pick it up. You could have feedback pulling in via email, or for instance, in that weekly email update that we send out, we could also add a link to a form saying, hey, give us some feedback where we currently sit with our relationship. Collecting this feedback is super, super important. And then simply what we're able to do is, because all of this feedback is connected to specific accounts, so we have feedback connected to the accounts, on the account level, what we can do, and let me pull up one here where I know we have some data for it. So that's Wolf Motors. What we can do is we have a look at client feedback, and here we have a full summary. So we have right now, for instance, with Wolf Motors, it's a negative, and we have AI suggesting us a next best action. Schedule a call with the client to discuss concerns and develop a proactive plan. And here we have a summary of all the different feedback points. And whenever new feedback comes in, this is basically going to update, and we can even trigger some alerts based on whenever this client sentiment changes. So how this is set up under the hood, again, this is simply just leveraging roll-up fields. So now instead of projects rolling up tasks, we're going to have accounts. So over to my accounts table, and here we have feedback concatenated. And so all that we've done here is we've done a roll-up on the feedback collection, and we're just getting that text feedback that we have and concatenating this. So this is just like one long text of all the feedback, and we can simply then use this in our AI steps. So here we have the client sentiment. This is just an AI-powered field, and here you have the data to analyze. So you're analyzing a thread of client feedback compiled here, then classify this as positive, neutral, or negative, and it's basically just going to update those fields. Now, as I said before, important is the way this works in Noloco, whenever this source data changes, this will recalculate. So let's say you have 4 more pieces of feedback. That means this concatenated field will update, and this will recalculate. And what you could even think about doing to make this even more accurate, or you could have maybe like 2 different calculated fields. You could have one just of like the overall sentiment, and you could have of like sentiment of the last 5 feedbacks, or sentiment of the last 2 weeks, to understand like where do you currently sit and where do you sit across your whole relationship. And you can trigger obviously a bunch of automations on top of this classification. And finally, here we have also AI suggesting a next best action. And here it's just a text field, but again, created by a prompt. So with that, that's sort of covering the 4 main use cases. What I want to leave you with now are quickly some best practices before we head over to the Q&A for building your AI-first operating system. Number 1, really divide to conquer. And what I mean by that, and I've put there build iteratively, a lot of these systems, obviously there's going to be many different steps. Sometimes you saw it, you need to pull in some data from Make, you need to create first an AI-powered field, then have an AI workflow. If you try and like create the perfect solution from the start, you'll probably find yourself overwhelmed and building for way longer than you need to. Try to get to like always 80% of the result and just build iteratively. Maybe add an AI-powered field, and maybe you still need to, like, as we saw there, paste in a meeting transcript manually. Once you see that it's working, then you can go and work on bringing those transcripts in automatically. Really try and do an iterative approach, and especially when it comes to prompt engineering, this is something that you need to repeat it. You need to like write your first prompt, see how the results are across many data points, and then iterate on it. Now that comes up to number 2. All of those prompts that you saw there were not written by me. Please use AI as much as possible for writing prompts. You'll see it as like they're getting very, very good at understanding how they should talk to themselves. So if you're using Chat GBT, if you're using Claude, they actually have a great prompt generator tool that you can use. But just give them high level what you're trying to achieve. Tell them that you're trying to create a prompt for a workflow or for an automation. They will automatically give you the places where you should add these placeholders. So rather than worrying like, oh, geez, those prompts look very, very complicated and very hard to do. I noticed some people also asking, can I share the prompts? Typically, all you need to do is open up Chat GBT, open up Claude, tell them what you're trying to do, and have them generate the first draft of your prompt. Now, number three is really if you're also an agency with more than one person, try and empower all of your team or as much of your team as possible to build. Because really what we believe in is the people who are running the processes now with AI, with no code, with automation, you don't need to be an engineer or a coder anymore, a developer, sorry. Everyone has the ability to build these systems. And we really believe the best people to build them are the ones that are running the processes each and every day. And finally, where I think Noloco makes a ton of sense and adds a ton of value, is the results you're going to get from AI is only going to be as good as two things. Obviously, your prompt, but secondly, the data that you put in. And there's obviously a saying, shit in, shit out, is if you have poorly structured data, the AI cannot work miracles. You will have issues creating meaningful reports, meaningful proposals, meaningful sentiment analysis. So make sure your data is structured in a good way. So with that, I need to have a drink of water. I'm glad we're going to now welcome Dara onto the stage. So Dara, I'm actually going to spotlight you as well so we can all see you. Dara, welcome.
Hey, great to be here. Great demonstration, Jan. Really good stuff. And some great questions in the chat as well. I've kind of taken a lot of them down to make sure I can cover all of them. A lot came through, but really nice
Awesome.
stuff, really great demos.
Amazing. I'm glad I did the amazing platform some justice. It got off to a shaky start, but
Certainly.
I think we got there.
The curse of the demo. One little hiccup is, I think, part of the quota, right?
Exactly, and better at the start than at the end. So yeah, do you want to maybe then you said you've written some of the questions down. Do you want to start with the first one that you have on your list, and then I can also go back and take a look through as
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I've kind of grouped a few that were kind of similar, so I'll probably go through them. So Nuno and Nikita asked around like why would you use Noloco versus say Airtable or Zapier tables? I think Nuno, your question was more around like the data side of things. But Nikita might have been more around like the interfaces and app builder. So I'll kind of address both. So
yeah,
I mean, well, we integrate with Airtable, Smart Suite, Google Sheets, Postgres, MySQL. And we also have NoLoco tables, which, as kind of pointed out, very similar to Airtable's tables in terms of custom columns, formulas, rollups, etc. What we say is if you're already using Airtable and if you're happy with it, just connect your Airtable to NoLoco. That's kind of the best thing to do. Same with Smart Suite, Postgres, whatever. If you're new to no code or automation, which a lot of people are, it's way easier to kind of build it all into NoLoco instead of having to pay for two licenses, worry about syncing, learn two different platforms. So that's kind of the high level answer to that. In terms of like why would you use Airtable versus NoLoco? Airtable's interface, sure, they're quite similar, but Noloco is significantly more customizable, as I think Jan demonstrated really well. And also the way we handle users is really different. So for people who are building client portals, the licensing that we have for the client logging in is well, it's much more affordable than say paying per seat for Airtable, as well as you kind of get much more customization over. You can make it completely white labeled, basically.
makes sense.
That's kind of a quick answer.
Yeah, I think it's important to point out, maybe I didn't cover it, is all of the things that I covered there in the demo was using the NoLoco tables, but
Yeah,
of course you can pull in the data points from other sources. A question I had then, Dara, following up on that one. So the AI powered fields, for instance, they would only work with NoLoco tables, is that right? Or
that is right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Airtable have their own as it is. We didn't really feel the need to kind of tag them on, but so they only work on Airtable or sorry, on no local tables. We might consider adding them to things like Postgres, Google Sheets, because obviously they don't have their own. But right now it's just no local tables. The workflows that John demonstrated though, they work with all data sources,
mate,
and all the interfaces work with any data source as well. So
that's
kind of following up then, Mark then asked twice about like when we'll have our own database. I hope that answers that question. Like NoLoco Tables is that it is its own database. It's fully hosted within NoLoco. It has, depending on a different plan, you have different record limits. But you did have a follow-up question on that, Mark, as well, which was, does it work well with like up to 500,000 records? So, effectively, yes. On our business plan, you can scale up to 350,000 records without having to contact us. After that, we do have custom plans that can go up into the millions of records if necessary. as well as synced records with Airtable, Postgres, etc. So that's I'm more than happy to chat about those scaling issues if you need, if you have any more questions.
Maybe one other thing, now that it's good that you mentioned with regards to like the workflow actions that it can also be used for the other tools. One thing that I didn't emphasize, which I had on my list as well, is between powered fields and using AI in the workflow steps. Obviously, what's great, what I really love about the AI powered fields is just how quick you can get validation. So you can basically
Yeah,
have that. And just for instance, like when we were putting in the call notes and it was just pulling in the summary, categorizing it as the product type, finding the budget. Where you would want to use workflows over the AI powered fields, and this is pretty much universal across any sort of no code database solutions that we're seeing, is if you want AI to generate a first draft, but then want to be able to edit the outcome, that's where you'd rather go with the workflow solution, because just like generating a proposal, it's probably not going to nail it the first time. Generating
yeah.
a post, it might not nail it the first time. So that's where it's great that you actually have both of these possibilities within Noloco.
Exactly. And to kind of follow up on that, if you need to like change something, so if like it generates a proposal and then generates the email based on that proposal, it's way easier to do that with two steps within a workflow rather than kind of two fields, particularly if you want to make changes to both of those. So yeah, that's exactly it. Um, Elena then had a question around what workflow actions can you run within Noloco. So for anyone familiar with like Zapier or Make, we're not kind of competing with them. We integrate really nicely with both of those. We have a webhook action, so you can kind of trigger webhooks to instantly trigger Make or Zapier scenarios. But primarily our workflows allow you to respond to changes within your app. So when data changes, like when a record is updated, created, or deleted, you can run a workflow to do other things like create a record, update a record, delete a record, run AI actions, as we saw, send notifications to specific users or groups of users, send email notifications, or just emails in general. And then other things like generate documents, reach out to Chat GBT, send Slack notifications, those sort of actions. Basically, things that kind of complement your app specifically.
Yeah, and I think what's cool on that, I saw also the question from Stefan with regards to like what other AI models then, and of
Yeah,
course, I guess like you said, maybe Noloco's thinking about adding more, but the fact that you give that flexibility with being able to send a webhook out means that obviously, and especially if security is something you're is important to you, Stefan, is that's something that I would say is like you don't need to necessarily like disregard Noloco as an option, because then you
yeah,
could obviously have send an API call, which you can learn about in the 9X courses, thankfully,
that's it.
um, and integrate with basically any model that you need, and then push that data back in to Noloco.
Exactly right. Yeah. And we've got the integrations in both Make and Zapier to make it really easy to accept a webhook and then write that directly back to Noloco. And
Yeah.
as Jan demoed, any changes to the data reflect instantly in the interface as well. So it's pretty seamless from the user's
Yeah.
perspective.
And Alina just had a follow-up question on that. Is there a limit on the workflows and actions you can use within the Noloco app? Is it sort of like tied to pricing?
Good question. There are like a few premium actions. I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it's some of the more custom AI actions on the Pro plan, I think, versus the starter plan. And each plan then comes with a set number of runs per month included, but you can also just pay to go over them each month. So you're not forced to upgrade if you go over, or if you have a big month where you're just making a lot of changes. You can just pay for the kind of overages per month as well. Yeah, but it's pretty generous. It's really just there as a safeguard. 99% of our customers are very much, um, don't use most of their budget each month. Yeah,
Awesome.
great. Yeah, don't worry, Donald. I see your question there. I'll get to that now. So, Lana probably had a question about ClickUp for client portals. We get asked about this a lot. It's certainly high on our radar. We'd love to hear more about that. We do have a link on our website where you can drop your name in to be on that wait list as we look to build out our ClickUp integration. That would again basically allow you to do what Jan has done. Build a custom client portal, customize the views from all your data that comes from ClickUp, your projects, your tasks, your clients, all of that good stuff to really like just streamline the way you collaborate with your clients that are using ClickUp. Or for other people that if you're not tied to ClickUp, you create something probably more powerful on our own tables. Cool. And then yeah, Ronald and George was it, I think, had a question around PDF generation slides, because Jan, you generated a great proposal. Proposals often come in PDF form or PowerPoint or slides form. So again, we don't have anything native that does that, because believe me when I say generating apps is a big task on its own. So we kind of left PDF generation to the experts. But we do have a really good integration with Docs Automator, which I really love this integration because Docs Automator is super simple. It takes the Google Sheets or the PowerPoints that you probably already have. You probably already have templates for them that you're using. You've probably highlighted the stuff that needs to change each time. And it just allows you to replace those, variables with curly brackets. And then you connect those to Docs Automator. And then in Noloco, you tell Docs Automator what values you want to put in each variable. And that can be generated. That produces a file then that as the output of that workflow action that you can either email or you can save. So whether it's a PDF, or sorry, whether it's a slide deck or whether it's a PDF document, yeah, you can just use that in a follow-up step to either email it directly to the client, or as kind of Jan demoed a few times, you save it to the record and then follow up, personally after you tweaked the AI generated proposal.
Yeah, and I
Really,
think
really easy to set up.
on the counter like weight of that one as well, there's a lot of value of also like consuming data from existing PDFs. So one is obviously like generating in, and there you could almost use Noloco as the way where like files are getting uploaded, and for instance using Make or Zapier N8N for being able to, for instance, like Claude's API, also Gemini allows you to actually attach the PDF, have AI read it, extract some data, which you could then save back to Noloco. So I think on both ends, like you said, and it's understandable when you're trying to build something that can do everything, you need to sort of pick your battles and choose where do you pick an integration versus where do you build everything
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly. Yeah. No, that's exactly it. Let me see. Was there any other questions that I missed? There was one I think that you might be best answer, Jan. It was around what was it? Something about lead gen. Yeah, how can you use the platform to maximize lead gen? This is something you probably do a little bit more than me, integrating with like platforms like Freelancer, Upwork, etc. I don't know if you have a good
Yeah. So
answer.
for me, the big thing is like uh, saving all that, making sure everything is saved. So for instance, like typically, like also we still do now when we were an agency, you will typically have not just one, but several lead magnets. For instance, we do these live webinars. We have on our website free tutorials that you can do. We also have a free course on no code operator. We have a new free course that we're working on right now, more focused on AI. The previous free course is a couple of years old, but when you have all these different lead magnets, making sure everything is stored in one place is very key so that you can see the multiple different touch points that you're having with people interacting with your content. And the next thing is once everything is stored in there, what's great is you can actually trigger automations based off that. So for instance, one thing that we have, which I would recommend everyone set up, if you're doing content on LinkedIn, as soon as someone comes in and becomes a lead, whether it's to our free course, whether it's to these workshops, we have an automation where it doesn't work 100% of the time, but we'll try and find your LinkedIn profile. If we find you, you'll get like a connection request from me and my two co-founders, so that like it's basically a nice flywheel that you have. We're creating content to raise awareness. People discover 9X. They then sign up to one of our workshops, one of our tutorials, our free course. We then connect with them on LinkedIn and they see more of our content, and it's just staying top of mind. So I really think making sure that really where Noloco comes in that side is making sure you're capturing all of that data and structuring it in a clean way, because it's just so flexible. It doesn't matter if I've got events on Luma, events on Eventbrite, I can pull all of that in to Noloco.
Absolutely. And you can dashboard it and you can filter it. You can do whatever
Yeah,
you need to do. Great question. Great answer, actually. Couldn't have put it better myself. I think that was it from the questions. I could be missing something.
awesome. Yeah, and I think then we're also like right on time. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. I'm glad we had so many staying to the end. Thanks for being so engaged in the chat, but also mainly a massive thanks to you, Dara, for joining us and answering
My
everyone's.
pleasure,
For
honestly.
any of the people that are new to Noloco, we saw quite a few at the start. This is the first time experiencing it. What's the best way for them to get started?
Just jump over to noloco.io. There's a big sign up button there, and our AI will kind of guide you through the setup as well. That's something we would have loved to touch on today, but you can only look at so many things, right? So yeah, you basically either connect your data if you're already using something like Airtable, or you just go through our AI onboarding flow, and it'll create all those tables for you and get you set up with an app that you can use in your first few minutes.
Amazing. All right, then thanks everyone, and wishing you a good evening or good morning wherever you are, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, Dara.
All right. Thank you very much.
Cheers.